Hi, I'm Audrey Meyer, and this is the Find Your Superpower podcast, the show where we hear the story of incredible people changing their body and mind to reach their goal and achieve a peak state. From entrepreneur to community leaders and so on, we learn what it really takes to find your superpower. To get you to crush your fear, get on a kiteboard and fly in the air, that's for sure. So Curt, I know you have an amazing life and you have a beautiful wife and some kids, and you definitely live a life with a freedom. So what does it mean to you? What's a freedom lifestyle?
Yeah. So the freedom lifestyle on my podcast, first question I ever asked it was, what does the word freedom mean to you? And I can't answer it for any one person because freedom comes from within. It's a feeling, it's a mindset, it's how you want to live your life. Crushing fear is obviously the overall topic here. And fear is an interesting thing because you live in the Dominican Republic. You're not originally from there, I assume. And you're kiteboarding there. You're a professional kiteboarder. Now, a lot of people are sitting here watching this probably who sit in an office job, maybe in a job they don't like, and are like, oh, I would love to be on the beach in the Dominican Republic. Maybe they think, because it's just the opposite of what they're doing now, that would be freedom. But it's what they're really doing is thinking very tactically. I want to be on a beach. I want to sit on a beach with a margarita for my whole life. Well, after about 5 days of doing that, maybe you'd be bored, right? I mean, you're doing things, you're kiteboarding, you're not just sitting on the beach doing that. And so people have these flashes of what freedom might be in their life, but they never sit down and really think, if I died in 20 minutes or in 20 years, often the older I get, the more I get this feeling when I get on a plane that it might be the last time that I'm ever on a plane. The plane goes down or whatever. I actually don't get that feeling much when I'm on a plane by myself, but when my wife and kids are on the plane, and I basically, I meditate, and I often think, there's an old saying, I'm going to butcher it, but, don't pray for a happy life, pray for a happy death. Because I think, listen, if that plane was going to go down, are you going to think in your head of all the things you wish you had done in your life, all those places you wish you visited, all the things you did with your significant other, the things, being more present with yourself, with your kids, with your family? And a lot of us are going to wait until that kind of shocking moment, till that emergency, till we're on a cliff, to think those things. And people say, oh, my life flashed before my eyes. When really what I think is we should all stop, slow down, really get a clear vision of what we want our life to be, a life with freedom. And that's going to mean different things to all of us. A lot of times we don't sit, and a lot of times, most of the time, I didn't do it for 40 years of my life to really identify what it means to be free. And that's still changing in my life. And I audit every single day. So the freedom lifestyle is so personal, but it's a life in which you don't feel that you're under the thumb of someone else. It's a life of want instead of a life of compulsion. And I'm not talking about a life of not caring about others, not a life of not helping others, a life where you're just worried about money all the time. That's the opposite. It's really discovering the true self so you can give more of yourself to the world, to your relationships, to your job, your work, and all that. So the freedom lifestyle is really personal to every single person.
Yeah, this is so true. And in French, we always say the grass is greener in the other neighbor place, right? But it means maybe what's make your neighbor happy will not make yourself happy, right? And
Absolutely.
maybe he's flowering his grass. That's the reason it's green. The point is, like, you are so right, and especially today on social media, we're looking so much at those people and envy, and we want to be as skinny as them, as strong, as fit, as rich, as beautiful, as whatever, or live on this beach in the Dominican Republic. But will it really make you happy, right?
Right.
So I know, Curt, you wrote this book, The 5 Pillars of the Freedom Lifestyle. So what are the 5 pillars?
Sure. So the first pillar is superpowers, which you already talked about. And I'm a Gallup certified strength trainer, which means we have an assessment that you can take to find out your strengths. Strengths are not skills. Skills might be, I can kiteboard. Skills might be, I'm a good writer. Skills might be, I can play the piano. Strengths are those naturally recurring patterns of thought, feeling, and behavior that you can productively apply. So you may take two best-selling authors who have the skill of writing, but the way they get there is much different. You know, the way there's some people who are early risers, there's some people who are analytical, who are activators, there's some people who are more deliberative, there's strategic thinkers, and then there's just the doers. Combining your skill with those talents, then you turn them into strengths. And when every day you show up with passion, excitement, you're doing what you want to do, you're investing in it every day, you turn them into superpowers. And that's when you get in that zone when you're in the flow. I mean, I'm sure kiteboarding, I used to run cross country. Yeah. There's those times when you're grinding and it doesn't feel good and you're pushing too hard. And then there's just times when you get in that state of flow where it's active, almost meditation, right? You lose yourself in the moment and it comes easier to you. That's what happens when you get in your superpower zone.
Yeah.
The second pillar is vision. We already talked about vision. It's that your vision for your life. It sums up your purpose for being here. And all of us, I would argue, none of us are here to just take up space.
Yeah.
We're here for some sort of purpose. Defining what that is, that's the hard work. It doesn't just come to you. Some of us are waiting for it to come to you. It doesn't just come to you. You got to think hard about it. You pair that purpose with the impact you want to make on the world, the impact on yourself, the impact on your community, the impact on your relationships, on your dog, on your kids, on your loved ones, whoever, right? So you define that vision. That's pillar number 2. Pillar number 3 is alignment. A lot of people talk about work-life balance. Oh, I want to seek work-life balance. And that assumes that work and life are separate, that work's over here and life's over here. When you separate the two, what you end up doing is saying, well, I'm going to put it all in work today, but then it's going to balance out and then I'll put it into life. There's just life. And so the key is alignment. And there's 3 facets of life. There's relationships, there's yourself, and there's work. And if you align those 3 in a way that works for you, you feel more free because every single day you're living the life that you want to live. So a lot of people talk about balance and they do this. All right, I'm going to put my head down. I'm going to ignore my relationships. I'm going to ignore my self-care. I'm going to eat like junk food and I'm not going to work out for the next couple of weeks because I'm on this project. But when it's all over, it's going to balance out. I'll come home early from work. I'll take my significant other out for a date. I'll play with the kids extra. Now, if that happens, that's a big if. A lot of times that 2 weeks turns into 6 months, turns into 5 years. For so many people, it turns into, you know what? It's all going to balance out. I'm going to have enough money in the bank, and then I'm going to retire at 65, and then we're going to travel the world. Well, there's no guarantee that you or I are going to be alive tomorrow. That's an empowering thought. That shouldn't be like a sad thought. That should be empowering. But just in my family, the people who waited until 65, I call it the 65-year plan, between the ages of 64 and 66, in-laws, my dad, other people I know, heart attack, stroke, cancer, knee replacement. So you talk about balance, not you, but people talk about balance, and what they end up doing is they spend their lives waiting instead of living. And so it's about alignment. The next pillar is outcomes, where you reverse engineer that vision. So every day, every week, every month, every year, you know those key outcomes that you need to achieve, and you plot the shortest, straightest, simplest line to those outcomes. I just had lunch with someone, and we were talking about the things I'm going to do today, the things I'm going to do this week. And he said, wow, you're so focused. I said, yeah. Now, for instance, I have people all the time, hey, can we hop on a call and can I pick your brain? No. Why not? Well, because I have paying clients. It's not fair to them. I have my self-care, so I'd rather go and work out. And then I have my family. So there's a lot of brain picking going on. I hope well, that's not nice. Okay, it's not nice, but I'm focused, and when you are radically outcomes focused, you reverse engineer that vision. It's so much easier to say yes to the things you know are going to move you toward that vision. It's also easy to say no to the things that aren't. And that way, you don't fill your day with inputs that don't bring you to your outcomes.
Yeah.
And then the final pillar is flow. Getting in that state of flow, which is the cumulative effect of the first 4 pillars. When you're in your superpower zone, you're flowing, things come easier to you. When you have that clear vision, when you know what you have to achieve every day, it's like you close your eyes, like we talked about kiteboarding and running, and you just focus on the next input because you're confident that that next input is the right input to bring you to your outcomes. You don't even have to think about it. Like, what do I got to do today? Oh, I got 15 to-dos. And a lot of people talk about the grind. I call them hustle and grind pornographers. where it's like, it's all about brute strength and beating your head and sleep when you're dead. And it's for that reason that so many people take 20 actions when they need to take one.
Yeah.
Why a lot of people fit 2 hours of work into a 14-hour day.
Yeah.
And so those are the 5 pillars: superpowers, vision, alignment, outcomes, and flow.
Love it. Love it. And I love that you end up with a flow, because as an athlete, you know that we always in that zone, in that flow moment. And you know, Curt, that when you're in that moment, and it's not only for athletes, you play music, you painting, you know, you play with your kids, with your dog, you just in that zone moment. That's also where you can improve so much, you know, where you have like huge superpower and then you grow, right? You know that. So tell us, Curt, about flow. Why is it more important than the grind? You were talking about the grind earlier, so can you tell us a little more about that?
Yeah. So in the military, on the shooting ranges, they have a saying that slow is smooth and smooth is fast, right? Because if you have to break down your gun or put it together, load it up and shoot, and you're frantic and you're like trying to do it extra fast, what happens? You screw it up, and you're actually slower than if you started slowly, you flow into it and you do it. It sounds counterintuitive, but I had my son, my 8-year-old, one of my sons, does karate. And last week I was watching him, and they had they have their belt that they have to tie.
Yeah.
And there's a certain way you tie it. And they had a competition who could tie it the fastest. And my son, he did what I would say is grinding. He tensed up. I'm motivated. I'm going to do it. And he went into it trying to do it fast. Not only did he do it the slowest, it was all jumbled, and his instructor, his sensei, told him it looked like scrambled spaghetti. But that's what happened, right? Motivation and willpower. You come out of the gate and you're like, oh, and you're so tight, and you're like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. That's the reason gyms are full in January. But though it doesn't last, right? Because you need that process. Once you get in that state of flow, then you're still there in December.
Yeah.
And I used to run cross country in high school. And in practice, I was very good. We would run, I would do 15-mile runs on a Sunday, lose myself. It was like effortless. I'd come in and I'd feel great. Practice, same thing. I was up with the lead group. My times were faster than the competition, because when it come to competition, what did I focus on? I focused on the medal. I focused on the time. I focused on my competition. And when I focused on them, I tensed up. And then I thought, I'm going to play this motivational music. I'm going to get pumped up. I'm going to get ready to go. What happens? The cortisol pulses through your veins, which actually makes you stupider, right? Because then it's fight or flight. And it's just all about survival.
Yeah.
Well, you can't, maybe if you're in a 100-meter race, that would work. Or a 40-meter race. I would argue the best sprinters are ones who flow, right? But what happens is you tense up, you focus on the results versus the outcomes. Those are two different things. The outcome needs to be running my best race, getting in that state of flow, doing the best possible thing that I can do, not focused on, oh, I got it. What's my time going to be? And so a lot of people think they're competitive. What they are is focused on the wrong things. There's a guy, not a guy, Michael Phelps, the Olympic swimmer, legendary swimmer, couple in his last Olympics. His coach has told stories over the years about the radical visualization that Phelps does. He visualizes the perfect race day, getting up and eating breakfast. He visualizes how he's going to take his warm-ups off, how the water feels when it hits him, the breaths he's going to take. He visualizes every stroke. What he doesn't visualize is medal stand, place, time.
Yeah.
What he visualizes is the next right input, the next stroke, the next breath. So in the last Olympics, there was a race, and he was focused, and he had the earphones in, and he was just focused sitting there, and you could tell he was visualizing the next right input. And one of his competitors was sitting there. I can't remember if he's from, I feel like it was from Spain or South Africa, was sitting there in front of him, throwing jabs like a boxer, trying to psych Phelps out. Well, Phelps was visualizing everything else. This other guy was getting motivated and pumped up. Well, Phelps not only beat him in the race, but there's a great picture that goes around on social media of Phelps doing the breaststroke, looking forward, right? He's visualizing his best race. The other guy's next to him, behind him, looking at Phelps.
Yeah.
And so that's why I say you can become radically outcomes focused, but not obsessed with the results of doing it. And that's hard to understand, but you're a professional athlete. You can understand that, right? That when we get in that flow. A lot of people, when they get in the grind, they define their day by how many things they get done, not the right things, or they define their day by how many hours they're in the office, which is ludicrous.
Totally. So, Curt, would you have like an advice to give to the audience to find that flow, or maybe like a little routine that you do like in your morning or whatever? How do you think which could help someone, doesn't mean in a sport, but just in a daily life, to kind of like set this little flow?
Yeah, you know, it's a matter of rather than chopping down every tree in the forest, clearly defining the two that you need to chop down. So I define for every single day just 3 outcomes that I have to get done, because there's going to be other things that happen in your day. You get sick, the electricity goes out, the bridge is out, you can't get to work, whatever. If you set your day up for failure by saying, I got a to-do list of 20 things, you either don't get them done, or stuff happens, the stuff we don't expect, and then you're angry, and then you're tense, and then you're just 3 things that you know you have to achieve. Yeah. I also am a big believer in starting your day, getting up, setting yourself up for control of your day. And what I mean by that is you get up hours before you have to. Get up before the sun comes up. Have quiet time in meditation. And understand that you are energy. Yeah. You know, your energy that's turned into matter. And if you really focus on that, it's a scientific fact, Physics 101, that energy can neither be created nor destroyed. And, you know, the Taoists talk about, and Bruce Lee talk about flowing like water. And your energy, so you can absorb water. You know, I box, and when you hit it, you can absorb it. You know, in martial arts, you're taught to absorb it rather than go into it, right? If you do that in your day, and you realize almost as a third-party observer that these things that are happening they're not going to kill you. They're not going to destroy you. That your energy, you can't be destroyed, that you can absorb these things and come back with the next right input. It helps me and many of my clients get in that state of flow where you realize, listen, we may die tomorrow. We may die in 20 years. This little task, this spreadsheet I'm working on right now, in the whole scheme of things, it doesn't matter. You know, and we all have to become a little less self-important. And when we do that, you're less tense, you get in that state of flow, and you're more like water where you flow and you absorb the energy. And I just think that's a much, not only for your mindset, not only for getting things done, but just when you're grinding and you're tense, it's that, you know, cortisol. I've mentioned cortisol a few times. Yeah. It's like public health enemy number 1, because inflammation, heart disease, cancer, it causes all that inflammation that is a source of so many problems. And if you're in fight or flight 24 hours a day, it's not healthy. Right. Yeah. Yeah, this is so true. And also, you know, that if you're in this fight or flight mode, right? If there's something happening at work or whatever, or in your sport, in anything, or you're in a traffic jam, well, your stress level is just going to go up and up and up. And right. And it's going to create fear. And then you have to go to work and talk to your boss or whatever. And you just creating more fear and more fear. And it's not good. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we as animals were created to survive, you know, and to get through to the next possible thing and have more humans, you know, and that's a wonderful thing. And it protects us. You know, if you walk outside and there's a wolf, right? It's fight or flight. The problem is when that takes over our life, and it can be a reason that, you know, fear is interesting, because there's people who have done things, who've come to me, who have done things physically in war or done some other things, overcoming a physical fear. And they think that translates to business or other fear. I'm the opposite way. I'm terrified of heights. There's certain things that scare the heck out of me. But it's the same thing, right? The way you overcome it is, you got to bring that down. When you're in fight or flight, you just won't do it. It's why, you know, I've done ropes courses. I've paralyzed with fear because the cortisol has taken over my body, and you physically can't A lot of people think fear isn't real. It's real because when the cortisol comes in, your thoughts turn into real and you can't move, which is why you have to train yourself to, small steps to be able to take that leap or take that step. And so.
Yeah. Thank you guys for joining. I will see you in the next podcast on AudreyMeyerCoaching.com.